So last night we had another round of protests that took place here in Austin. And one of the biggest things that I want to do is I want to delineate. Like for us, there are two very clear differences in people who are peacefully protesting versus those who are rioting. And APD has a long history of supporting people who have the right and who peaceably assemble in order to express their opinions. Those are things that we have facilitated. Those are things that the department has historically been very strong in supporting to make sure that we can protect people's rights, their First Amendment rights to free speech. But what we saw last night was a major deviation from that. What we saw last night were people that took advantage of the situation and they decided to become riotous. And that's where we have major issues. And this is not tolerable behavior. There's video after video where people are marching through the streets, but as they're doing it, they're taking other people's property, other businesses' property, and they're throwing it into the middle of the road. They're taking scooters and they're impeding traffic. They're surrounding vehicles. They're graffitiing buildings. They're attempting to break windows. They're attempting to damage other people's property, and that is not lawful behavior. This kind of stuff are things that we've seen in the past, and it came out earlier today with the chief talking about the individuals that were arrested. I believe there were around 12 individuals that were arrested, 8 by APD. And there are people that were arrested for criminal mischief, for graffiti, people who were failing to obey a lawful order, people who were charged with harassment of a public servant. These are people who spit on officers. These are people who threw rocks at officers. We had numerous APD officers get injured yesterday because of the behavior that these criminals were engaged in. This is not a peaceful assembly. This is indeed a riot. One person was actually charged with riot and resisting arrest, interference with public duties, and failure to obey lawful order again and yet again, harassment of a public servant. Even more ironic is that you look at some of these photos, these booking photos, and individuals are smiling. These are people who have no regard for the law. They have no regard for people who are assembling to actually express their First Amendment right. These are people who are taking advantage of a situation in order to commit criminal acts. That is what is going on. People who are actually expressing their First Amendment rights, who are willing to work with the department, we will work with them, and that's behavior that we encourage and we want to facilitate. But the department, our city, and more importantly, our district and county attorney should not tolerate people who take advantage of other people's opportunity to exercise their First Amendment rights as an excuse for them to commit crime. That's what should not be tolerated. And I would challenge, it sounds like there are conversations that are happening, but to our district and county attorney, they have talked about enforcing the law. They have talked about how they support holding criminals accountable. Well, this is an opportunity to actually show it. These individuals have been arrested. They have been charged with crime. APD is not arresting peaceful protesters. We are arresting criminals who are breaking the law and who are impeding on other people's ability to express their First Amendment rights. So we expect to see our district and our county attorney hold these criminals accountable, not to see these charges dismissed, not to see an apathetic attitude towards people who are engaging in riots, but to actually hold criminals accountable and prosecute them so that way it actually protects the rights of those who are peacefully assembling. That is the way this system is supposed to work. There's nothing wrong with exercising your First Amendment right peacefully. There is a problem with interfering with the rights and infringing on the rights of others so that way you can commit violent crimes, so that way you can commit property damage, so that way you can damage people's livelihoods and impede their ability to travel freely. That should not and will not be tolerated. Our chief has already said that we are here to maintain order, but to facilitate those who peacefully protest. I am encouraged to see our elected officials have put out a message similar to that. Several of our council members talked about people who peacefully protest. They encourage that. And they're expressing their own opinions, which is perfectly fine. But saying that they did condemn any violence. When officers are having rocks thrown at them, when officers are having to go to the hospital, when officers are being spit at, because they are doing their job in trying to maintain law and order, that should never be tolerated. So we're seeing a repeat of some of the behaviors we have seen in the past. My hope is that the answer, the reply will be very different because the time is different. What has happened previously was a detriment to our city. It was a detriment to public safety, and it was detrimental to our department. Those are mistakes of the past that cannot be made again. So this is a new time. This is a time to hold criminals accountable. This is a time where APD will continue to do its job, where we will continue to enforce the law. But it is also a time where we ask for our community to stand with us as we work to support them and to make sure that people who do things peacefully don't have their rights infringed, but people who engage in riots, people who throw things into the streets, who throw rocks at officers are held accountable, and that they are not allowed to just walk free. So there will likely be more of these, and we'll continue to watch them, and we will be watching what the district and the county attorney do with all of this.